What is up, guys? Welcome back to JoJo Cho MTG, and today we are doing another standard deck tech. Now, this is the second deck that I run alongside my mono red. It's a mono black deck that's kind of based around discard, but it has mid-range and just a few other ways to pump out the damage. Now, this deck I also have been climbing with alongside with my red deck. I am currently plat 3 right now. I'm making my way towards diamond, so hopefully these deck techs will help you guys kind of push along that way as well and understand the meta currently and help get along the way. Now, this deck I 100% created myself here from my own ideas. I think black is in a really good spot right now, especially mono black. So I'm going to go through all the cards in the deck right now, show you why I picked them, their usefulness, and then break it down, and then we'll do a couple games to see how it goes. Okay, so first of all, our 1-drops here. We got Cut Down, a great removal spell. The main decks that we're facing a lot of is other mono-red decks or decks that are kind of black-red or blue-green. A lot of them have low power toughness creatures. So this is always great in the early and the mid game, sometimes even the late game, just to get rid of that one chunky blocker that's in your way. So great 1-drop cost kill card. Now, Evolved Sleeper, this guy has multiple uses, but as a turn 1 drop or turn 2, even in the later game when you have mana to pump into his abilities here, he's just a 1-1 to start out with, but you pay 1 more black to make him a 2-2, 2 more black to make him a 3-3 with Death Touch, and then 3 more black to put a counter on him and draw a card. So the great thing about this is that every single turn that you have extra mana open, you can use that extra mana to make your Evolved Sleepers better. So great choice in this deck. He can evolve to become a 4-4 for a 1-drop. Of course, you have to pump the mana into him, but it's just good overall. Especially just getting him to that Death Touch point. Being a 3-3 Death Touch is great for blocking every single threat that comes your way. Now, this is something that not all players use, but I definitely love it. Bandit's Talent. Now, when it enters, each opponent has to discard 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card, which is totally fine. Pretty much, mostly people just discard the 1 non-land card when playing this. That's great, but what is amazing about this card is just a tier 1 upgrade for 1 more black. I can make it so that every single turn, if an opponent has 2 or fewer cards in their hand, at the beginning of their turn, they lose 2 life. I've won games with this card because of how much it just hits them over and over and over again every single turn. And not a lot of decks run enchantment removal. So this is perfect for that, and it keeps consistently pumping out damage. I've even had one game where I've had 3 of these out, and the opponent was taking 6 damage per turn. So it's great. And then, of course, if you have the extra mana later on, or if the game's going too long, the 4 cost on this does allow you to draw an extra card at the beginning of your end step, as long as your opponent has fewer cards in hand. So, extra draw, amazing. Now, I only have 2 Broncos in here because I feel like they are definitely can be helpful and cannot be. So, this is an extra card draw pretty much. You do lose life to its mana cost unless you saddle it, of course, but there's only a few creatures in here who can saddle it. But when he attacks as a 2-2, I reveal the top card of my library, lose life to its mana cost, and it goes into my hand. Perfectly fine. As a 2-2, it usually dies after the first swing unless you get it out on turn 2 and you're swinging really quickly with it. But that 1 extra card draw, or even 2 if you can get it out twice, is amazing for this. And if you saddle it, you're not the one losing the life, so it's perfect. I only have 2 instead of 4 in here. A lot of green-black mid-range decks use this card more often, but I only have 2 copies in here. Deep Cavern Bat is something that you'll see a lot of with any black deck, and this is helpful for the discard. So when it enters the battlefield, it's a 1-1 lifelink for 2. I can look at the flying lifelink, look at the opponent's hand, and pick a card from that hand and put it underneath it pretty much, and they can't cast the card unless he dies. So they have to kill it. The card goes back into their hand, of course, but this is another card. Take away that advantage, take away that kill spell that they have to keep your guy alive, and you're just making their hand smaller. That's the whole point of this. It also serves as a great chump blocker for any flyers or annoying people that come your way. You're like, okay, you can have the card back, but I gained a life off this and negated some damage. Go for the Throat is, again, one of our best removal spells here. We have 4 copies of it in the deck because it's just so good. There's not a lot of artifact creatures we have to worry about in the current meta, so this targets almost every single one of them and gets rid of them easily. Sheoldred's Edict. So I have 2 of these in here, and the reason being is because this is the easiest way to get rid of Planeswalkers without having to go a 3 or a 4 cost spell. making my opponent sacrifice a Planeswalker is excellent, because most of the time in Standard, you're not going to have, your opponent's not going to have more than one Planeswalker out at a time. And if they did, you're probably way too far into the game, or it's already lost at that point. So this allows me to do that, or for other things that are peskier that have some kind of ward and I can't get past it, or even the red decks that have the one guy that they're swinging at you and pumping at you, and they try to give them hexproof, they try to do whatever. This will allow you to make them sacrifice it. So it's perfect for that and Planeswalker removal. We only have 2 in here because we only need 2 for, you know, Planeswalkers. Now, Liliana the Veil, this is something I would like to have 4 of and get rid of the Cosmic Bronto. But right now, I think having just the 2 is actually perfect for the mana cost that we're kind of in right now. If I were to replace the 2 Cosmic Broncos for 4 Lilianas, it would just up the mana cost of my entire deck. And right now, we want to keep it low so we can keep, you know, being aggressive and getting rid of those removals. But she serves a great job of, again, making the opponent sacrifice a creature, making the opponent discard so we can get that damage with the Bandit's Talent. I've only ever even activated her -6 once in a standard play, but the -6 does allow for some great removal. And if the game's going on for a long enough time and you've already played her on turn 3, you're going to get this 3 or 4 turns later. And I've done, when I did activate it, I separated this 4-color deck into 2 colors. So he only was able to cast 2 colors, and of course he picks the red and black. If he loses, he lost his green and blue, and it was just shut him down. So great choice. I'm only having 2 for now, though. Might increase to 4 later on, depending on how the meta goes. We have 4 Shield of the Apocalypse. This card is our bread and butter. If I were to name a commander for this deck, it would be her. She is so good, 4/5 Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, I gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So it's just like Bandit's Talent. It does that extra 2 damage to them every turn when they draw, or even if they draw extra cards, doesn't matter. And then you gain life. She's saved my life so many times because of the life gain. She's killed players off because of the damage that she does, but I hardly ever swing out with her because having a 4/5 Death Touch is a big blocker that just consistently does damage and heals you without having to do anything. So I keep her usually untapped unless I know for a fact I could swing out and not have to worry about something coming back after me or losing her. Now, another complement to this deck is Phyrexian Obliterator. This card was amazing back in Phyrexian and the original Phyrexian, and now it's even better here. I think it serves so well in this deck. When I dropped this, a lot of people tended to surrender right off the bat if they can't get rid of it. It's a 5/5 trample. Whenever a source would deal damage to him, that source's controller has to sacrifice that many permanents. That's insane. This allows me to literally have a blocker that they can't attack with. I've had 1 Phyrexian Obliterator out, and my opponent had 5 to 6 creatures, and he still refused to attack just because I had this card out. This card has saved me so many times, and no one wants to block it. So that's 5 damage you're getting through. It's crazy. So I have 4 copies of those as well, and because they're not legendary, you can have multiple out at the same time. It's perfect. Now, the last thing we have 2 of here is Acolyte's Deepest Betrayal. So on this card, you can see sometimes discard decks play it, but I've played 2 copies of it because of its relentlessness. Now, what I mean by that is I'll explain it here in a minute. It's a flying 4/4 lifelink. Whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. Again, getting rid of cards in their hand. For each opponent who can't, I draw a card. So if they can't discard a card, I get cards. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, I get to create a black bat token with flying. I get an extra blocker. It has flying. It's great. Only if they discard a land, of course. Now, most of the time when you tell them to discard, they're going to pick a land if they don't have enough land. I mean, if they have little land or if they have too much land and they have bigger cards in their hand. So the land acts surprisingly, they do discard a lot of lands. When he dies, though, I return it to the battlefield tapped as a land, and I can pay 3 to put him back as a 4/4. This guy is so hard to get rid of, because regardless, I play him out, they can cast a removal spell on him. Next turn, I can cast him again for 3 mana this time. And he just keeps coming back. The only way to get rid of him is to completely exile him. So, this is amazing. This card does so much work, bread and butter. I mean, I can't explain how well this and annoying this is. So, that's the complete deck here. Besides the 24s, I do have 4 Mudflats. Now, this is for the rare occasion where I need to get a Deep Cavern back from the grave, or if the Deepest Betrayal somehow got milled from the top of my library into my graveyard, I can get those back to my hand. That's all it does here. It sacrifices it to return a bat, lizard, or rat, or squirrel, but we only have the bats. for this and return it from the graveyard to my hand. This is just that extra. If I need to get that Deep Cavern Bat or the Albatross back to my hand, it'll be perfect. So we have the regular 24 lands, 36 non-lands here. And that's pretty much the mono black deck here. I'll show you guys a few games right now, and we'll see how it plays. 4 lands, an Obliterator, an Evolve Sleeper, and Cut Down. I'll keep this because I can get the Obliterator out on turn 4. I can evolve the Sleeper twice if I don't have to use Cut Down. And most likely, because I have 4 land in my hand, I might not be drawing any more land anytime soon. So hopefully that's the case. Oh no. Caverner Souls for the mouse. Okay, so we instantly know now we're facing the mono red deck here. I'm going to cut that down right off the bat. So he's got the mono red push, so he's going to be playing low creature costs, just like the deck that I showed you guys in the previous video, and he's pumping his creatures up to swing. Now, it looks like he has white in here. So that means he's running more than just the regular mouses with Valiant, the red ones. He's got the white ones, and he might have the card that allows him to do damage to my blocking creatures, which is really good for that deck, but not good enough. We're going to get the bat out here. We want to make sure we can get rid of anything that's going to be a trouble to us here. So he's got these 2 rats that can give his guys double strike or trample. I'm not too worried about that, though. Check creature controls, get +1/+1. This is another card for buffing, but I am actually going to get rid of Mabel here, Cragflame. He might have been able to cast it next turn if he drew a land, and if it enters, it does give him a token, artifact, equipment token that he could use to buff his creatures, and we don't want that, so... Yep, see, he drew a land. He would have been able to cast this turn, but we stopped it. He can buff this guy if he wants. Totally fine. He's just swinging me for 3. I'm just going to take it. I have a lot of ways to gain life back into this deck, so I'm not too worried about him swinging out for that. We're going to make him get rid of one of his creatures here. He's probably going to pick the Flowerfooter or... Yeah, oh no, actually this guy. He doesn't need it. I mean, I can swing out again for that 1. I'm not going to be blocking with the Deep Cavern Bat anytime soon, so getting 1 life back from its 1 damage is still great. He might wait to cast these guys just because he can get the Offspring, but it doesn't look like he is. Okay, so he wants to just buff this guy and keep swinging at me. That's fine. I'll still take the 4 here. Again, I'm not too worried about the damage. I'll have a Death Touch next turn. I'll have Phyrexian Obliterator. Good luck swinging at me now. I'll still hit him for that 1 to gain life back. Now, the great thing about him playing white-red is a lot of his removal stuff is based on dealing damage. And with Phyrexian Obliterator, he can't do that damage. If he does, he's sacrificing so much. Okay, he's got the Offspring here. He's going to give his Flowerfoot Swordmaster probably double strike and trample because of how many of these are on the stack right now. And because he targeted it, this guy's buffing all of his guys. Totally fine. I dare him to swing at me, though. Yep. See? Just having him out, people don't want to swing. Okay, let's get another flyer out here. Lifelink. He has no flying. That's the one thing downside about this deck a lot, too, is if they don't have the bird in there, the bird wizard that I showed you guys with the buffing him, then he's going straight mice like he is. He's not going to have any flyer blockers, so I can be able to get life back every single time. He might be swinging out. I mean, there's no other reason why he would do the Rockface Village unless he actually plans on swinging out. I'm shocked. The card in his hand probably is what deals damage or gets rid of my guy, so he's probably not too afraid to do that. Again, I can block with this guy because I'll get it back next turn. No big deal. Here it comes. You're still getting rid of so many of your creatures. Look at that. See, he just did 3 damage. Now he has to sacrifice 3 permanents. He's going to hit again because it has double strike, so it's another 3. I lose my Obliterator, but he has to sacrifice 6 permanents. He might just FF. Bye. How much land we have more than him now? Like, Phyrexian Obliterator is so good. Okay. Not that big of a problem. We'll just put our bat back on the field. And let's start evolving our sleeper here. And I've got a 3/3 Death Touch. We're going to swing out again. I don't need the blocker right now. I need the health more than anything. If I were to block, he might just give him double strike anyway, so it wouldn't even matter. I wouldn't gain the life that I want to. Cool, you can play land this turn. See, I still have a 3/3, so I'm just going to block here. He's going to hit it first, but I still have life, so we both kill each other. He gets 1 damage in. Woohoo. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to full swing. Okay, draw a card because of that, and I gain 5 life. Even if we were to give them both double strike, which he can, and buff them, it's not going to be enough to kill me. Woohoo! He's going to try to do 4 damage if he attacks? Yeah. If I were him, of course, I would attack too, because he can't block my flyers anyways. Okay, this is perfect. Now I'm going to do even more damage to him. And we have enough mana just to pump this up. So I'm drawing cards. I'm doing damage to him. Made him discard, even though he didn't have anything. I'm going to discard again. I draw another card. Now I didn't have a blocker for next turn. At this point, I can pass the turn. As soon as it's my turn, if he doesn't gain any life, and just win. I don't need to block here, but I'm going to, just to be safe. Like I said, again, I'm just going to pass the turn. Big game. And that's how it works. You saw kind of a little longer than I expected it to for that kind of a match, but we still out-damaged him. We used a lot of our health, of course, but in the end, we were able to just gain it all back and have the biggest threats possible on the field. So that's the deck. Thank you for watching. Come check me out on Twitch later tonight. I'm going to be doing another Bloomburrow draft and seeing how far we can climb on there. And then I'll see you guys tomorrow.